Hey y'all, welcome. I'm Mikey. Come on in, take a seat, get comfortable, and take off your shoes. We're going to chill for a little bit. Today we will be discussing one of the most pressing issues in the melanated community, absent fathers. As a life coach and herbalist, I've worked with many melanated families who are dealing with the impact of absentee fathers on their children. In this episode, we will be exploring the important role that fathers play in a child's life and the devastating effects that can occur when fathers are not present. Firstly, let me acknowledge that this issue is not unique to melanated communities. Absent fathers are a problem across all communities, but is particularly pervasive in our community. According to recent statistics, an estimated 64% of melanated children do not live with their biological fathers, and this is a significant impact on their emotional and physical development. Now, I'm not saying that the entire 64% are absent due to it being their choice. I'm not even sure if we can get a correct percentage of the fathers that want to be there but aren't allowed the opportunity to. But we'll delve deeper into that on a different episode. Fathers are important in a child's life because they provide a stable, nurturing presence that is essential for children to grow into well-adjusted adults. Research has shown that children who grow up in a fatherless home are more likely to experience developmental problems, emotional difficulties, and social issues. Without a father present, children also have an increased risk of poverty, drug abuse, and criminal activity. There are several factors that contribute to absent fathers in the African American community. One of the most significant is the high rates of incarceration among melanated men. Incarceration rates for melanated men are much higher than for any other racial group, and this often leads to families being torn apart. The trauma of incarceration not only affects the fathers themselves, but it also impacts the family unit. Financial pressures also play a role, as African American men have higher rates of unemployment and lower median incomes than any other racial group. Without financial support, fathers may struggle to provide for their families, and they may be forced to turn to illegal things that land them back in the situation of incarceration. In addition, there's a stigma around seeking help for emotional and mental health issues in the melanated community. Many melanated men may feel ashamed to seek the help they need, leading to a cycle of negative behaviors. But despite these challenges, it's essential to recognize the important role that fathers play in a child's life. Fathers provide a unique perspective and influence that cannot be replicated by anyone else. A father's presence creates a sense of stability and security, and this is critical for a child's emotional development. In conclusion, absent fathers have a devastating impact on our melanated community, and it's time we address this issue head on. While there are many factors that contribute to this problem, it's important to acknowledge the critical role that fathers play in a child's life. As a community, we need to support fathers and provide them with the resources they need to be present in their children's lives. Only then can we break the cycle of absentee fathers and foster a new generation of emotionally healthy, well-adjusted young people. I watched a video called The Vanishing Black Family, filmed in 1986. I would suggest you go check it out. It was very informative and eye-opening. One of the first things that crossed my mind is that this was the mindset of the generation before me. It's somewhat of a revelation as to why things are going so downhill and seem to continue to be going in that direction. In the video, a man is interviewing different young melanated people in inner cities, ghettos as he calls them, about their lives. Now, I didn't get the opportunity to experience my grandparents due to them all passing away before I got here, but just like my generation had to have learned our mentality from somewhere, so did they. So in the beginning, he's interviewing some young ladies that are mothers and asked them, how many of them are married? None of them raised their hands. He then asked how many of them wanted to be married to their children's fathers. Only one raised her hand, and they all giggled about it. When he asked them why they didn't want to be married, one responded that she already has a child and that she has to care for a family. That would be a lot more responsibility, and she didn't want that commitment. What? So you'd rather take on all that responsibility by yourself? You wouldn't want a husband to form a family unit? Another says she thinks she can make it as a single parent and her father wasn't in the home anyway. A few others chimed in and agreed, while another said she didn't think male figures were substantially important. Are you kidding me? This was their mentality in 1986, and it seems to be the consensus in 2023 still. In a previous episode, I stressed the importance of children living what they learn. He then interviewed a young man who had a warped view on women and their worth. He also thinks his children aren't his responsibility. It's solely on the mother. Just 25 years earlier, the strong melanated family was still the backbone of America. Most children had both parents in the home. So what changed? The traditional melanated family had vanished, and half of the black families at that time were headed by a single mother in cities all over America. Majority of them were unmotivated and uneducated babies raising babies. Does that sound familiar? Black teenagers had the highest pregnancy rate in the country at that time, and a lot of them were some of our parents. Half of all black teenage girls got pregnant. Some of them only had a 5th and 6th grade education and vocabulary level. Now imagine this is your first teacher with only an elementary intelligence. How far do you think you're going to go? One young man, 18 years old, said all the young men do around there was make babies, as he talks about how he dropped out of school and just likes to hang around and has never held down any steady employment. He's been arrested 5 times and says in his neighborhood it's so easy to get into trouble. He as well is the product of a single mother household, and his father is in prison. The mother of his child, who is only 17, says she doesn't even ask him for help because he can't even help himself. Her mother, who is 34, was never married and had her at an early age, just as her mother had her. Are you seeing a cycle here? She isn't even old enough to collect her own welfare check, so her mother has to collect it for her and her child. The interviewer asked her why she ended up in the same situation as her grandmother and her mother. She responded she didn't have anyone there to teach her. She wasn't given any real guidance. This is why I stress the importance of changing our mentality. We are the ones teaching these children, and a lot of them aren't learning the right lessons. Poverty definitely plays a factor. Majority of these young people he interviewed came from impoverished households, and the cycle continues with them and their children. That's why I stress the importance of changing our mentality. One of the young men says he has 6 children with 4 different women and doesn't take care of any of them. He barely even knew the ages or the names of his children. He said the government is taking care of them, so they're good. Majority of the young women were just fine with collecting $385 in welfare and $112 in food stamps to support them and their children for the entire month. Can you imagine trying to sustain a family with that little bit of money, even in 1986? They were having multiple babies when they already couldn't care for the ones they had. At that time, the welfare system was giving you more money for each new baby. Some of them were just having babies to get more money. The government eventually stopped that practice when they figured out what was going on. Just listening to not only the mentality but the vocabulary of some of these young people made me even more sad. It literally sounded like he was talking to children. And to think they were raising children. I'd like to say that these young people that I was looking at are a product of their environment. If all you see is poverty, violence, and drugs, with education being of no importance, then how bright is your future going to be? If the adults around you didn't even graduate from high school, how likely are you to? Or if the little boys who didn't have a father have to turn to the streets to learn their lessons about being a man, how successful will they be? When the first teacher or teachers fail children, they're forced to look elsewhere to learn life's lessons. Chances are, if they're raised in impoverished households, the lessons won't be so great. I myself am the product of a single parent home, but it was my father who raised me. Like I mentioned before, I would go visit my mother in impoverished areas. I've seen so many different things as a child with a mother on drugs. There were so many toxic women around that planted so many toxic seeds with their words and their lifestyles. I'm so grateful that I had the father that I had to reprogram me for many different reasons. One, you know the old saying, when you know better, you do better. My father was there to show me better. With my father, I lived on a horse ranch in a 4-bedroom house with just him and I. We had horses and I did rodeos, and I was spoiled due to me being his only daughter, and I was the baby. With my mother, sometimes we had an extension cord to the neighbor's house because there wasn't any electricity. Possibly little to no food in the kitchen, and you never knew who would be around and what kind of drug tweak they'd be on. Two, because I didn't miss out on that first unconditional love that only a father can offer a little girl. Some of you ladies don't even understand that love, so I understand why you don't see the importance of a father in your children's lives. Just like the young ladies in the video see a correlation. I mean, if you never had it, how would you know what you're missing? Just think about it for a second. Your father is the only man that will ever be in your life to offer you unconditional love without wanting anything from you but your love and to see you succeed. Now, any man in your life after that, offering you any form of love or attention, he wants something from you. So that love that you're yearning for and you're looking for in all the wrong places, sis, you're not going to find it in any of those men you're looking for it in. You were supposed to get that from your father. How a man is supposed to treat you as well. My father and I used to have daddy-daughter days. We'd get dressed up and he would take me out to wherever I wanted to go. He'd open my doors for me. He'd pull out my chair and we'd just talk about whatever random topics came up. But it was the quality time he was spending teaching me life lessons that a woman never could. He also didn't curse in front of me or any other women or children. He told me I was beautiful every day, and now that I look back at a lot of the things he taught me, he was teaching me the things that would be conducive to being a good woman to a man. Now, the downside to being a little girl raised by a single man is just like a woman can't teach a little boy certain lessons, a man can't teach a little girl certain things on how to be a woman. Yes, he could teach me the things that in his mind made a good woman, which some of those things were a little rigid, with there not being a woman around to be that divine feminine and bring that softness. I missed out on a lot of the nurturing side. Then there were the toxic, unhealed women who did enter his life, and they didn't want to plant any seeds in this little girl who clearly didn't have her mother. So I guess in a way they taught me what not to do when they had to pack their bags and leave. But I say this to say, any adult that's healing and they're a single parent, if you're dating, please, if you're not going to come into that child's life and make it any better than when you came in, I suggest that you don't even enter their lives at all. There are a lot of toxic adults running around dropping their toxicity off everywhere they go instead of healing. And children don't deserve to have to bear the brunt of your issues, decisions, and mistakes. Look at your children like seeds. If you plant seeds in good, fertile soil, they will flourish. The soil is the foundation. You and their environment is the soil. So how well do you think a seed is going to grow in that soil if it's toxic? Don't you want to start your seeds off with the best soil possible to give them the best chances to grow? Well, that begins with having both parents present. Ladies, I ask you, are you not allowing your children to see their father because he's a bad person who is detrimental to their well-being? If so, I need you to take some accountability and responsibility for your actions. You chose that man, sis. You chose to share your body with him. You chose to allow him to shoot your club up. You chose to have a baby for him. See all these choices that led up to your current situation? Chances are there were red flags and signs that he wasn't such a great person and probably wouldn't make the best father. But for whatever reason, you ignored him and you proceeded. In some situations, you told him you were pregnant and he told you he wasn't ready to be a father. But you told him, I'm having this baby anyway. We all have control when it comes to having the baby. Only women do. We decide if there will be a life or not. Now, some of y'all might not want to hear this, but everything I say is all out of love. Sis, He told you in the beginning he was not ready to be a father, and you kind of forced him into fatherhood. Some men, after the baby comes, they change their tune and they rise to the occasion. But then there are others who don't, and you talk so bad about him when he told you who he was from the very start. We need to, as women, be more responsible with our bodies and who we share them with. Because then you end up with a baby with a man you barely know, and then you find out you guys don't even have the same morals and values and plans on how to raise the child. My melanated women need to love themselves first and know their worth. But it is hard when you were planted in toxic soil and you've been growing there your whole life. When you don't know any better, how can you do any better? Then you have the crab in the barrel mentality, which is a real thing in certain environments, where your peers and sometimes your elders that are around you don't want you to do any better than them. You know what they say, misery loves company. Don't worry, sis. I was in attendance at that party for quite some time. No matter how hard I tried not to, I kept hanging around the barbershop, and guess what? I got a damn haircut. But I'm here to tell you that the brain is amazing. Just like you learned all of these toxic behaviors, you can unlearn them now. Of course, it won't be easy. I mean, it took time for you to learn all those things. So you have to give yourself the time required to unlearn them. All it takes is the willingness and the conscious effort to make it a habit. Remember, I told you it takes 21 days to form or break a habit. After that, it becomes second nature. I ask you, are you worth 21 days to yourself? This is the question I had to ask myself at the beginning of my journey. And I'm challenging you to ask yourself this same question. If you are, then join me in this journey to healing your inner self. Now, today's herb of the day is Damiana, also known as Tenera diffusa. Now, it's an herb with a long history of use in traditional medicine. It's native to Central and South America and has been used for centuries to support reproductive and sexual health, as well as to promote relaxation and reduce stress. Today, Damiana is often used as a natural remedy for a variety of ailments. One of the primary benefits of Damiana is its ability to promote sexual and reproductive health. The herb contains flavonoids, which has been shown to improve erectile function and libido in men. It also contains compounds that stimulate the production of estrogen and progesterone, which can help regulate the menstrual cycle in women. Now, Damiana is also known to have relaxing properties and can help reduce stress and anxiety. It contains compounds that promote relaxation, and it calms your nerves, and it reduces feelings of nervousness or irritability. So this makes it a great herb to use for those who experience stress and anxiety in their daily lives. In addition to its reproductive and relaxation benefits, Damiana is also used to aid digestion, support respiratory health, and promote a healthy immune system. One popular way to use Damiana is as a tea. Now, to make a Damiana tea, add 1 teaspoon of dried Damiana leaves to a cup of hot water and steep it for about 5 to 10 minutes. Damiana tea can be combined with other herbs such as passion flower or chamomile for added relaxation benefits. Damiana can also be added to smoothies or juices for an extra boost of nutrition and health benefits. Now, it does have a slightly bitter taste, so it pairs well with like sweet fruits, berries, apples, bananas, stuff like that. Another way to use Damiana is to make a tincture. Now, tinctures are concentrated herbal extracts that can be used to improve the medicinal properties of the herb. Now, to make a Damiana tincture, combine 1 part dried Damiana leaves with 2 parts of alcohol, such as vodka, and let it sit for several weeks. The resulting tincture can be added to water or juice and taken as needed. Incorporating Damiana can provide you with natural and effective options for promoting sexual and reproductive health, reducing stress and anxiety, and supporting overall health and wellness. Additionally, incorporating spiritual practice such as meditation and journaling can enhance the healing properties of Damiana, bringing a deeper level of healing. Now remember, the first step to change is realizing that a change is necessary. And I'm challenging you to do a little self-reflection and figure out if it's time for a change. I thank you so much for joining me. I've enjoyed our time together and I appreciate your presence, and I really hope you'll grace me with it again soon.